Okay, everybody. My name is Sean, and I welcome you to today's webinar. We are going to talk about direct billing and routing. While they are tied together, they are two different pieces of the same coin. So I do want to push that this is going to talk about how to set up direct billing on reservations, as well as some things on a company card to set it so it regularly happens for people. As well, we're going to talk about routing, and routing can be between accounts or things that way. I want to remind everyone that listening that using direct bill is different from routing. It's important to point out that these terms mean different things in Rover. We do know that it's easy to confuse direct billing and routing, or vice versa. So we wanted to take this time to walk through this session today. We are going to talk about both of them. So I wanted to start and talk about the concept of what is the difference. Routing is our ability to send charges to different places. That can be the ability to send charges from one spot on a bill to a second bill on the same reservation. It could be the ability to send charges to a different account, such as a house account or a group account. It could be the ability to send charges from one reservation for a room to a different reservation. And going from there, the one that goes from there, if we go off the very first one, is sending something as a direct bill. And a direct bill is going to be where we are sending charges as a final payment method out to an accounts receivable or an AR account. So direct bill is really that final push of moving something from the guest folios and the guest ledgers to our accounts receivable module, versus routing is set up between accounts. Before we get into actually setting up some routing on some different accounts or looking at a couple of different things, I wanted to show you one item if you aren't familiar with it. In settings, within our financial settings, we have our ability to set up our routing groups, so our billing groups. So in settings, financials, and then billing groups, we have our different billing groups that we have set up at the hotel. So from here, we can add in different items and set things that a team, whether it be a sales team that's setting up a group or if it's a front desk, can go ahead and let things be set up to quickly and easily add all things within here to within a routing and things that way. This hotel already has a number that are set up, but if you ever need to set a new billing group up, we can always simply click Add New. We're going to give this a name, so we can say that this is test routing, and we can then go through and select the items that we want to utilize. Now, this hotel has lots of different codes and different things that way, but you can simply choose what items you want to choose and go from there. And then when this test routing is used and set up on something, it will then use those and send those transactions according to how you set up routing, where they're going, whether it be to a different bill or to a different account. One thing to note in here that if you're doing something is that tying this together is that if I look at my charge codes, just so you know, is that if I look at my charge code for room, and my room code has in this particular hotel has state sales tax as well as occupancy surcharge. When I set up routing groups in my billing groups here and go from here, if I say room, all I have to choose is my room items. The generated charges, such as the taxes, will automatically follow along with that. So you don't need to select those at the same time. Looking at going from there, going into a couple different reservations, I want to start with looking at some reservations that I've built out and you set up already that we can do to show how routing happens as far as routing goes. And I'm going to use the example that I have 3 rooms under the Jones party that are already checked in. I've got Tom Jones, Susie Jones, and Candy Jones in the hotel. And how I can use routing is that I'm going to say that Tom is, father, grandfather, whoever, and is paying for his daughter and granddaughter room, Candy and Susie. So I can do that and set the same things up. And all of our routing on an individual basis is going to be set the same way. We're going to go into a specific reservation and go to bill and charges, and we can add billing information. Now, when we add our billing information, it's going to always start as blank, and I'm going to add routes that I want to go to. And I can add multiple different things here. So I can first off say that Tom is actually paying for room and tax, so I can search for Tom and I will find that I can see Tom this way. I could as well search for group cards or accounts as well if I switch that way, but I can come here and say that I want to go to Tom Jones's room, and then it's going to say what do I want to bill to it. And I can select from here those routing groups and billing groups that we had already said. So I said that Tom is paying for room and tax for it, so I can click this, and I can hit save, and it's going to save that main route. So I'm now sending room to Tom Jones's account for room 405. I can as well add additional routes because maybe Candy needs to do something different as well. I can choose to keep it on Candy's account and add her payment, or I'm just going to use cash for right now for here. And I could, again, use my routing groups. That's something I want to send it to a different bill. And notice that room is gone because we're already using that. But I can as well use charge codes, and I could come in here and look for something such as parking, that I want to send parking charges to our second window, and I can do those types of things. So by doing that, I've now put billing going to parking charges goes to her bill number 2, and we have multiple things that way. And you can see that the cash payment is made and showing on here, and it just goes that way. What will happen is that regardless of what folio and what bill I put the parking charge on, if I put a $25 parking charge on, it automatically moves it to the second bill. It helps if I hit the post button and not just out of it. And we now see that bill 2 has the parking charge as well as it has the tax on there. And notice that when I set up the parking charge, I did not indicate the tax went, but it went automatically. And that goes back to that same item for room, is generated charges are automatically going to go to follow that posting that you want to do. So I've set that routing up as one way. I can as well look at it and look at a different account, that if I want to look at Jones again, and that if I look at Susie, Tom has said that he is only going to pay for room and tax for Susie Jones for one night. I can do the same thing. When I go to my billing information and add my routes, I could come in here, I can still come and say it's going to go to Tom, but one of the things I have the option to do is change the date range. The date range always defaults to today, to the full date range of there, so if anything goes through there, but I can change it and say that I'm actually only paying for room charges for Susie going to Tom's account on the night of the 8th. One thing to note when you're doing a billing for something of just a specific date like this is you want to say, on what date would those charges post? If I said that this is the 11th and the 9th, room and tax charges would go to Tom's account for both days when it posts. So it's when it's actually posting. So you want to say it's just the one date, and we go that way. And so same thing happens if I post a room charge on here, and while it will post at night audit, if I say it's a $250 room charge, it's posted, it's going from here, but it's not ever going to show on Susie's account. It has gone directly to Tom Jones' account here in room 405, and I can now see that I have the room charge of $250 plus the taxes transferred from Susie's account, and we will show that on the folio here, as well as it will show on the invoice when that's printed. Hope that first portion all makes sense to people in going that way, in the ability to charge rooms there, whether it be to another room or just to someplace within the folio. We also have the ability in groups to set up routing and going from there. And so in this particular group, I have my routing group example group. And in here, I have used this billing information on the group here. Billing as well as, again, set up here that I've said, I have this as coming to my account for routing group example. I've said all charges, and I've put that I didn't have any dates, which meant that it applied to all dates for people in the group. And as well, I did put it as there. So what actually happens is that this group has already been in and is due out. If I look at any of the people on this account, and I see that if I go to their actual stay card and see that Damon has been in for 2 nights already, I look at his bill, there is nothing on his bill because all charges are set and routed to there. So everything has already come there. If I did anything else on here just like I did earlier, he has a posting restriction, but if I say that he's got a rollaway and it posts this way, since I've set all charges, everything goes through there. It doesn't ever hit this folio. It has gone directly to our group and to our group account there. So if I look at the transactions, I'll see all of the different things. I'll see that grouped in a day-by-day manner. Here was the transaction that we just posted of a rollaway bed for $15 that was transferred to Damon's account, and we see that there. If I look at yesterday's transactions, I will see all of the room and tax for the different people that were in there, and everything sits here in this spot. Now, one thing that we did as well go in here is that I said that it's, my payment method is direct bill. Direct bill is saying that I need to send this to an AR account. So if I actually had this and I wanted to set my payment and I said my payment was going to direct bill, right now I'm going to go this way and I'm going to try and make this, but I have no company or travel agency account attached to here. So there is no direct bill done this way. If I I'm just trying to think of it. If I attach a company like Stay in Touch, which as far as I know has a direct bill account already set, I can now do that same thing. I can now come and set direct bill and make that payment. It is going to pay these items to direct bill, and we have now direct billed it. The balance on this account is zeroed out. And if I go into my financials and my AR account, and not going into the details in here, but if I come to my Stay in Touch, my account here, my AR transaction has my routing group example and all of the data and everything that backs that up. So I've got all the charges that have come from there. So that's one way of doing direct billing. One thing that has to happen for direct billing is that we actually have to have a direct bill account created on the company card, and we attach those to either a company card or a travel agency card. Either one of them will do it. If I come in here, I can see, if I look at my account that I just created for this, the direct bill demo account, you can see that I have an accounts receivable number in here and it goes that way. If I don't have an accounts receivable amount in there, I will not be able to eventually charge something. If I come in and create a brand new company quickly, just to use as an example, if I create this new company card that has no AR account and I save it, I can do a couple different things. I'm not going to create an AR account right this moment. I can come into that same idea and look at, I didn't want to create a reservation. If I look for Tom Jones's account, if Tom Jones is actually with my company of no AR account, which I can add into his there, because before I go there, if I went to bill and charges and I tried to pay in our guest accounts, you will see that we do not offer direct bill as things this way. I need to actually have it set up and attached to this. So if I come in and add in my no AR account company, I then need to actually set up billing and routing to do AR. So if I come the same way, I can say no AR account. I'm going to tell it that I want to still direct bill it, but I want to send all charges. And I'm actually go that way. So it will actually send everything that gets posted on bill 1 over to bill 2, which we just saw. And so everything that gets charged from Susie and Debbie Jones will actually go this way. We move everything here. We now show that we have this, and we show that it's going to direct bill and where it's going to. If I attempt to pay this, I don't want to post my room charges, it will come through here and say, wait a second, I don't have an AR account actually established. If I have the permissions to attach an AR account or create one, I could create it at this point in time. That is a fairly recent addition. About 2 months ago, we rolled out the ability to whether people can automatically create accounts or not. So that is a permission to have your team check if everyone can or can't. Most hotels like to limit who can create AR accounts to avoid that. So I'm not going to do that from there, but it won't let me direct bill it because I don't have an AR account established. I hope that makes some sense to everybody in going from there. I haven't seen any questions pop up and things that way yet. The other thing that I can do is that on my company cards or travel agency cards that I've set up, I do have the ability to set up that direct billing is going to happen each and every time we make reservations. So in my Stay in Touch account, I have an AR account set up. I also have billing information defined here. So that what happens is it shows that I've got all charges for Stay in Touch routinely get going through and go to direct billing account, so I can do that. So I have that, and it will go and populate when I utilize that. And these are those things that come in, whether it be a OTA or companies that can go from there. But we need to set up that routing on the company card to allow it to happen every time. And then what happens to reservations is that if I look at somebody who's in-house at a given time, whether I'm making a new reservation or whether I have an existing reservation that's in-house, if I look at Hyatt's reservation here as an example, and I come in and add in my company card of Stay in Touch, it's going to do two things. It is going to say, offer me, because this particular one, I have a contracted rate. Do I need to change to that? I'm going to say, no, I don't need to. It's also going to tell me that, hey, there's billing that's set up for this. Do you want to apply it or not? This is an option that people say. If you say, no, I don't want to, but I can as well say, yes, I do need to apply this to this reservation at this time, and go from there. And so now I've attached in my Stay in Touch company with that. I've gone through and it will have attached my billing information. So it's now gone through, it's actually moved things here, and we'll set up, we had earlier charges, so it hasn't moved all of those, but it will do billing charges go that way. So those are two different ways I can set up direct bill. One thing that finishes, as we talked about in our group as well, is that in our accounting one, we can always send those things to AR where we can, but we have to have that company or travel agency attached to it. If charges are sitting in here for other groups or anything else that way, they'll just sit here in transactions on the company or on the group account, or you can as well see them in front desk and accounts to get that information. So you can see it in either place and make payments from there. So those are kind of some of the quick things that happen with it and some of the ways of how we have to set up direct billing. Kind of that one refresh and things to look at is, and remind everybody, is that if I have this and I say, I want to change for Clay that his billing is going to be direct bill, if I look at my payment methods, you notice that I don't have direct bill as an item directly here. I have to have attached it someplace else originally. I have to have attached it to a company and going from there. I could just as easily look at it and say, I have billing charges. I can say I need to add routing, and I'm going to look for Stay in Touch. I can add it in just the same way. My accounts and cards, I can add it here and still do my billing. There's the same way I can do it that I only want to charge room. I can add in billing and do any of those things. But either way around, it's going to go through and get this way. It's the only way to add direct billing to items. So that's kind of the quick items and going from there, and trying to keep everyone in a little under 30 minutes, and it's going from there. I'm going to open up everyone's microphones to see if you've got that. As a reminder, because it is everybody out there, if you're in the background, please feel free to mute yourself. But I'm going to open the lines for any questions.
Earlier, you were showing how you can set up, like, Tom would cover the room and tax for like a specific date.
Yes.
So what if we just had like a credit card authorization form for them to cover 2 nights? Would you just route it to window 2 and then put the same routing?
You could very much so. You could do that same thing. If I don't know if Nicole Simmons has routing on it or to group with somebody else. If I go in here and look at this person, I can do the same type of thing. I can, on an individual basis, come in here and do my routing and say, I need to add routing for the nights of, it's going to go to Nicole. I want to say that for the nights of the 7th and the nights of the 8th, I want room charges, and I'm going to go to my credit card that I have. and then I can add this in. It's going to set it up for billing. It's actually going to do this. Got our, yes. You've got the 2 nights that are going from here, and put in a quick note that says, right, we've got, so I can put in those notes and go from there. So I can do it for 1 night, 2 nights, and put it to the credit card there.
Got it. Super helpful. Thank you.
My pleasure. Who else has questions?
Mine kind of has to do with the billing. You were looking at the direct routing onto a group's account.
Yes.
A lot of times we get asked for a breakdown on the invoice by all the charges per guest rather than charges by day. Can we have it? Can you view it so you can see all of the room charges for each guest, like in a line, rather than by day?
So, yeah, there's a couple different options here, and I don't know that I'm going to have a good example that I can use right this moment, unfortunately, since I did my routing group, I did it there. When you do transactions, when you do invoices, there are some options that you can go from here. So you can go, as there's not going to be anything really here on this, but there are abilities that you can summarize things by either room or by day or go from there. So if you did by room, it'll give you a quicker summary just of each particular room's charges.
Hey, Sean.
Yes.
To answer his question, something I figured out on my own was just to create an AR account and then transfer it all over, each room over when they check out, to the direct bill account. And that creates that break per room by day, group side. And then I just pay it off directly on the AR side.
That is another way to do it and go from there. It is a great way to do a really a nice, pretty clean invoice for people, because what will happen, it does take a little bit more time because you can't use that same grouping and go from there. If I look at my other group that was in-house here, and I apologize, multiple people use this as our test one. If I looked at this, if I have all of these set up, I did hers as that routing. She's a bad one to use. If you would have to go into each person within a group and set up that billing. So we could come in and say, yes, on my billing, instead of sending it to the group, I can set up my billing to say I need to send all of this to the Washington Nationals, and I'll say for the entire time, it's room, and it's going to go direct bill, because then you will get, what will happen once these actually charges get hit is that if you are actually looking at your financials and in your AR, charges, this isn't going to be clean. If I send out a statement, it will send out, I can send a statement for the time frame. It will show the details of each person's charge. So that is one alternative way to do it. Thank you for that suggestion as well.
Sure. So I have a question with regards to the routing.
Yes.
So I have a hospital that's dealing with us, and they require a copay that is taxed to the customer. And when I set up the routing to the second folio for direct billing to the hospital, it's also taking the occupancy tax from the copay, which is supposed to be to the guest's responsibility, and adding it along with the occupancy taxes for room charge billing to the hospital. Is there a way of stopping that occupancy tax that belongs on the copay?
What I would say is that in your room and tax, notice how you have occupancy tax here? That means that anytime something posts this way, since if I look at your actual transaction code of 100, you've got your occupancy tax.
Yeah.
If we actually, in your room and tax billing group, uncheck this occupancy tax, it will transfer when your regular room charge posts, but your copay won't transfer it.
Oh, fantastic. That was an easy one. Thank you.
Not a worry. That was why sometimes it's those things from early. It's that idea that says if you create something in here, if you have something that has generated charges, all you have to pick is the main one.
Okay.
So that way it lets people avoid needing to have upgrade taxes and everything else that way. So quick
Yeah.
solution for you.
Awesome.
Sean, what's the best way to make the payment in the accounts receivable account? So I know that there's add payment, but when you add payment, it gets unallocated, and you have to allocate it, right?
Correct. That was our push out was since we had not previously done it. It is still that same thing. It is making that payment and then allocating it as a secondary piece.
So if I were to click on Kelly Edwards, that little box, could I add payment and it would apply it to that?
It doesn't. No, it doesn't go from there. There is the allocate payment from there, but it is kind of a two-step process right now.
Okay. Okay.
But it is that push that it was the push from previously where you just made payments and you couldn't allocate things other than say it was paid or not paid.
Okay.
Other questions from people about routing or direct bill? If there's nothing else, I'm going to say thank you to everybody. I hope this helped, but I thank you for the time today and look forward to our next session. Have a great afternoon, everybody.